Okay, everyone, thank you very much. We can't put on these shows without the great support from our amazing team. Laura Daly's running around all the time. Amazing job. Reminded me, Laura, to give you a shout out because look at how perfect this agenda is. Now we move to Keith Boyle with Newfound Gold. I mean, Laura's thinking there. So yeah, without further ado, let me bring Keith Boyle. Keith, are you ready to go? Keith's ready? Yeah, we are running, actually, this is a first for us. We're actually running just a couple minutes early. So there's Keith. Keith, come on up and talk about a great segue. Oh, and you're going to be interviewed by Adrian Pocobelli. Yes, of course. My bad.
I am
Adrian
here.
Pocobelli, welcome back up.
Go, Keith.
Did you have a moment there where you're like, oh shit, what are they doing to me?
I wasn't sure. Great, thank you.
Adrian
Thank you, Anthony.
will lead the fireside, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Good,
It
excellent.
works.
Well, I'm happy to present Keith Boyle, CEO of Newfound Gold, with us here today at the International Mining Symposium in London. And Keith, it's been an exciting time for the company. A lot has happened. For those that are new to Newfound Gold, though, could you just give a couple of, a brief summary for us?
Sure. So Newfound was created in 2016, and over the 3 years, amalgamated quite a large property package just outside of Gander in Newfoundland on the island. And in 2019, discovered the Queensway deposit, which created, quite an excitement there. And they raised lots of money and drilled. And last year, it became apparent that they could explore so long, but then you had to do something with what you found. And so there's a real shift in the latter half of last year with a new board starting in December, and then a brand new management in January, which is when I started, to focus on take the company from exploration to cash flow. That was the mandate, and so that's what pretty much we've done this year. So we had, released our resource, which disappointed the market. I think they had lofty expectations.
And this was on Queensway.
This was on Queensway, and so ended up with 1.4 million ounces of indicated and 600,000 ounces of inferred on the Queensway deposit. But one of the main features of it is that there's a high-grade core there where 75% of the ounces are in 25% of the tons. So that leads to quite an opportunity. And so with that reset, it really was the foundation from which we could then point to, hey, we can get to cash flow fairly quickly here. Put out a PEA, raised some money, acquired Maritime in the process of closing on some additional properties that we acquired from exploits. And so we're here today now as a producer, having acquired Maritime and the Hammerdown mine, which was in development this year. And so we've come a long way this year.
Amazing. And so a lot of exploration companies, I think, dream of this sort of thing happening, right?
Well, we don't know quite what we've got yet. But
yes, exactly. But it's great. So how would you characterize the transition then? I mean, I imagine you must have to reimagine to a certain degree the company with this acquisition. Now you're producing gold. Is that correct? Are you producing gold as it stands?
Yeah, we're producing gold today. We're still in the ramp-up phase. They started Hammerdown mine started shipping ore just last month and processing it, and so they've poured a few times now some gold, and we've poured I think once since we closed. So we are producing, and we've got to ramp up that production in the first half of next year. It's really I'll back up. Hammerdown really developed that project on a shoestring budget and, was always just incremental. So it really didn't get all the capital it needed. And so we've got to put that in the first half to get up to speed and really get it at where it should be.
Right. So you have, in a sense, I guess you'd say, two different focuses to a certain degree. There is the production
Yep.
at Hammerdown, and then there's Queensway where you are developing it. And you recently had the PEA in July. So how would you characterize Queensway in terms of the production profile, the economics, and the development?
So Queensway, as I mentioned, so we're ramping up Hammerdown, and so that's operation now. It's almost there, so it's put a management team in place, and they'll look after that. At Queensway, what we've got, and again, I'll come back to that really unique characteristic, is that 75% of the ounces are in 25% of the tons, really narrow vein, high grade. And so with that feature, we're able to look at this in a phased approach. So we put out our PEA that showed, look, for a small amount of capital, 155 million, we could get up to, basically 69, 70,000 ounces of production over 4 years at, call it, $1,200-$1,300 all-in sustaining cost. And that cash flow then will then generate enough cash flow to build phase 2, which gets us 172,000 ounces a year at just under $1,100 all-in sustaining. So you add that to what we're expecting out of Hammerdown, and so we have a clear line of sight now on 200,000 ounces plus a year as a producer, let alone a property package that really people don't get a sense of how big it is. It's 110 kilometers long by 20 kilometers wide. Well, that's a 20-kilometer swath from Val-d'Or to Ouroy in Canada. And so, you think about the number of mines that are there, that's Agnico Eagle's, 45% of their production alone. So it's really significant.
Indeed. You look on the map, and it seems that the recent acquisition of Maritime Resources with the Hammerdown, it's not that far away. It's not like this isn't a separate province or country, right? So, in a sense, are there synchronicities between the two? I would imagine. Do you see these, projects working together somewhat?
Not somewhat, quite a bit. Because in the PEA, we had this first phase was 700 tons a day, and we acquired the Pine Cove Mill, which is being used by Hammerdown, and we also acquired the hydromet circuit, or the gold circuit, at Nugget Pond, which was a 700-ton-a-day gold circuit. And so, we're currently looking at which option is the better one in order to start producing at Hammerdown, or at Queensway rather, as quick as we can. We're looking at permitting this year, construction in the first half of 27, with production in the latter half of 27. So that's our timeline, and yeah, we're quite satisfied that we now have the ability and control over our own destiny.
Okay, very good. So what should investors know about this story as you start to ramp up gold production?
Yep.
What are what kind of risks are you looking at? How should investors see this story?
So we look at it threefold. One, we've got, with the acquisition, we have now control over our destiny in terms of timeline. Of course, working with the Newfoundland government on the permitting, which we see as a huge advantage. Second is, with the initial production from Hammerdown, the initial cash flow, we see that as a benefit going into project financing discussions for Queensway. Like I said, it was $155 million, Canadian I'm speaking now, that we'd be looking at in terms of a project financing facility. And the last bit, and yes, all of that has that execution risk involved. However, having a deposit, high-grade narrow vein deposit, that often has that resource risk involved with it. When you can expose it at surface, which we've done, we've channel sampled it, and now we're grade control drilling it. So we're not having to go underground, drift to it, and then be surprised at something. So we've really mitigated that risk by, putting our hands on it and fully sampling it. So we're now looking at really that execution risk in just delivering on, a line of sight of 200,000 ounce a year producer.
It's interesting the way you describe it. Like you have experience doing this, don't you? I was looking at
gray hair.
Yes, like you. So
and scars.
Right. Like, could you tell us a little bit, like, about your experience doing this kind of thing? It's not your first time doing this.
No. So I guess starting quite young in my career in the Abitibi, I got to learn how to develop some really small mines. So I've been around the game for 40 years, and having worked for an exploration company that went into production through building a small narrow vein gold mine, expanding a small narrow vein gold mine, and then finding basically a company making deposit that I was involved with developing it, and that was Ore Resources back in the late 80s, early 90s, and just having lived that experience and seeing that, it's really about making sure you don't undercapitalize something, because and properly financing it so that you're not stuck, and watching the critical pieces. And so for us, that's translated through a number of different other experiences. I've got about more than half in the Abitibi and Timmins camps, narrow vein gold. And so, understanding that it takes the work in order to properly understand the deposit.
Yes. Yeah. Spoken like someone who knows is how it
Scars,
sounds.
I told you, scars.
Yes,
right?
indeed. And we just had the Newfoundland panel on. How are you feeling about working in Newfoundland? I assume it's the first time you're working in Newfoundland. How are you feeling about permitting and just the overall, operating environment?
So I mentioned I worked in Quebec early on, like in the 90s, and to give people a couple of data points, the Louvicourt deposit was discovered in March of 88. In January of 92, the shaft collars were being sunk. That 4-year period from the time of discovery to, and
that's a long time then, right? Or is that
4
fast?
years? Very quick.
It's fast.
Very, very quick. Well, and then fast forward at Reunion, which was my last gig, from discovery to first production, which G-Min's advancing, you're talking about 6 years. Again, lightning fast. I'm talking to some of the people here, and they're still not through permitting yet.
Sure.
So it's a long time. So it feels in that same way, because I think when you look at it from a mining company's perspective, look, there's 2 years of baseline data. You should expect that you've got a year to 18 months of work that you have to do to understand what you're going to submit. And then once you submit, you'd like it to go fast. And if there are any, pushback, well, that just extends it and whatnot. If you can work with government through that early stage, one, the baseline, and two, that 18 months to 2 years of work that you have to do, that really goes quickly. And that's what we're seeing in Newfoundland, is that work concurrent, so that when you're going to hit your stride. And a data point is, Firefly, when they submitted, they got their EA in 45 days.
That sounds amazing, right?
So now they did lots of work at a time, but you don't cheap out on the work in order to deliver. And working with the government's been great.
It's great to hear. It's something, having worked at the Northern Miners since 2012, it's not common to hear, so I think it's great. Okay, so as we are starting to wrap up, tell us, what's the roadmap here? How do you see the next 6 months to 2 years playing out here? Do you have, how is your sense of where this is going to go?
So, the movie I see is we'll get Hammerdown up to a steady state production. Again, I think putting an operational realism to what that project should look like, and get it working. And so that, that's just putting a team in place and doing all the right things. At Queensway, that's a bit more exciting. We've got a project finance facility to put in place so that we can advance that. In the first quarter of next year, we'll be submitting for our environmental assessment certificate or permit. And then as well, from there, we'll have engineering getting done so that we can then pull the trigger on doing the appropriate construction, which we would see maybe some early works late next year with construction in 27, and then production to follow latter bit of 27.
And that would be in Queensway.
On Queensway.
Right.
Yeah, because Hammerdown will be producing by then, you see.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And then on top of that, we've been exploring. We've got a 70,000 meter drill campaign that we're completing this year, 90% done. We don't expect to slow down really next year because we've got a property package that has lots of targets that, when you think about it, we're 110 kilometers long. So there's lots of places that we can look. And we've got some exciting targets. We released a month ago there some results at Dropkick that are as exciting as the ones that were initially released back in 2019. So we're excited by, that kind of possibility to add to what we already have.
Okay, excellent. And we still have a couple of minutes here, Keith. Is there anything we haven't discussed that you want people to know about the project, what you're working on, where you see the company right now?
I think, well, I'm an engineer, and I not a, I'll call it the arm wavy finance guy. It's just pretty straight line for me. Is I see the line of sight on 200,000 ounces a year, and when you look in the marketplace at comparables, you're looking at something like $3 billion, $3.5 billion. Well, we're a $1 billion company, so our project financing ability is quite good. So we should be able to minimize dilution with respect to that, considering we'll have production. And so for us, we kind of see a $10 share price, or an objective of a $10 share price from where we are with what we've got. Plus we've got that lottery ticket. And that's the summary I've got, which is why I took the job.
Okay, excellent. And do you see any more acquisitions potentially in the future? Or is it, in a sense, are your hands full, so to speak, with what you have?
Yeah, my mouth is still full from the bite of the elephant, but hey, if the right opportunity, well, actually, we've got a significant shareholder who believes everything is undervalued, and so the right opportunity came along, that's fine, but it would really have to make a difference for us.
Okay, and finally, how's financing? Are you happy with the amount of money you have? Are you guys looking for financing? Do you have lots? How's your situation?
So we, post-acquisition, end of September, we had $87 million with, the investments in Hammerdown and the exploration. We'll probably end the year at somewhere around 50-ish. And with the project financing, we just announced that we've appointed Cutfield Freeman as our advisor. And so we're canvassing now the best options for us in terms of a project finance facility. And, with a market cap of $1 billion plus, 155 million doesn't seem that far out.
Excellent. Keith Boyle, CEO of Newfound Gold, thank you for joining us.
I'm going to keep you here. We do have a bit of time, and that was a great job.
Of course you are.
With Keith's career, and you hit upon it. I didn't realize you were with Ore Resources. So Jim Gill, Canadian Mining Hall of Famer, so that's where you started. I didn't realize that. But I do, of course, know about your experience with Reunion Gold.
Okay.
So you had a huge success there. Keith was Chief Operating Officer for Reunion Gold, which was acquired by G Mining, Guyana, become, it feels like everything in Guyana kind of took off at the same time. Can you maybe talk to us a little about any experiences in Guyana or with Reunion that are maybe applicable in this scenario?
Yeah. So I mentioned how, like that shortening of permitting timeline, working with the people in government to advance and doing the appropriate consultation in parallel. What we did at Reunion right early on was, as we were doing the baseline work, which included consultation, but we also, because of their need for capacity building, we said, you know what, we're going to engage with them right now in the building of our permit application. And so, again, it was that do loop of, oh, well, what about this, what about this? Because their glasses are tinted in there's a problem, because they're going to answer, you know, the feedback from the communities. And so I see the real parallel. That was the first thing I saw was, let's approach the government, and they were already on that.
There. Excellent. And your relationship, so the chairman of Newfound Gold, Paul Hewitt, also a lot of good successes with Klondike and Karora. What's your relationship with Paul, and what was that phone call like? Why did he come to you for this position?
Well, we had, I was with Superior Gold back in Australia during COVID, and he had just moved to Australia, and they were actually looking at us as a possible acquisition. And so, yeah, I took him around during due diligence, and you got 2 French-Canadian miners that bond underground. And, and so when it was time to, you know, take a company from exploration to cash flow, just seemed a good fit.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, very exciting with the team that's been brought on and what you've accomplished in a very short period of time. We'll continue to cover you at the Northern Miner and watch with great interest. Great job,
Thanks,
Adrian.
Anthony.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.